Hey guys, welcome back to Down and Dirty Modding. Today we are going to do something a bit different. We're going to set our mod to the side and we are going to kind of screw around a bit. Not that I don't screw around all the time anyway, but we're going to screw around because we're talking about screws. It's something we all use in our cases, but sometimes the numbering and the different styles can get kind of confusing. It's a big rabbit hole to go down, especially when you walk into that hardware aisle and you see the thousands of different types of screws you can buy. So what I've done is made up a little chart of these standard sizes, the two standard sizes. How can you have two standard sizes? Shouldn't it just be one standard? The two standard sizes of screws that we normally see, and I'm going to talk about some of the options you can get on those so that you can go out, walk into the hardware store, know exactly what you need to buy, or at least have a really good idea of what you want. So let's get our chart with our handy artistry skills. Now, first off, you can see we've got drive types. That's going to be one of your selections. So we've got flatheads, Phillips, hex, and Torx. Now, flatheads aren't very useful, especially if you don't want your screwdriver to slip off and mar the finish of something or destroy a component. Normally you see those in like wood screws, stuff like that. The second is Phillips, and those are, in my mind, the most hated screws ever. I don't like them because even though a Phillips drive can be sized, we never take the time to figure out what size of driver we need, so we just grab the closest one and we wind up scarring the finish, and it just boggles my mind that we would spend hours and hours and hours making everything perfect only to put it together and have to go back and touch up every screw head. So I stay away from them whenever possible. Next we have hex. That's what I tend to use. It's a lot more positive fit. And then also on top of that, if you do happen to strip a hex drive, it's actually inside that hex socket, so it's not super visible. You're never going to see any of the damage that you cause because it's not on the outside of the head. Last is Torx. Don't really see those very often, but it's a style. It's not a bad style to have at all. It's really close to the hex, and actually for hex drive, you can use a Torx bit. It does work the same. I don't think you're not supposed to use it, but it does work. Under those we have some different head styles with panhead, flathead, socket, and button. Now panhead's usually what you get in your case. That's going to be the taller rounded screw heads. Normally it's a Phillips drive. And I usually toss those because they draw the eye to them, or draw your eye to them. So I don't want my screws to be flashy and stand out and be like a little button just right in the middle of something. I prefer to have them kind of blend in, so I almost never use them. Next we have a flathead, and that is for countersinking to get a flush finish. So the outsides of your case, if you want a nice flush surface, or if you're working with something where a component has to sit on top of it, or you're behind, say, your GPU or your motherboard, and you're worried about the tolerances because you don't want to short out one of the pins on the backside, flatheads are perfect for that. Next we have sockets. Socket is a relatively big head, and it's a hex drive, and it's very, very good for industrial looks and mechanical looks. That's usually what I tend to use it for. So if I've got a hot rod theme, something that looks very industrial, I'll use socket heads in it because it fits that look. Beyond that, I really don't use them very often, but there's nothing wrong with them. That's a style preference. I tend towards button heads because they're low profile and they don't really draw the eye to them. They really blend in anywhere you put them, and they don't stand out. And I really like that. I don't want you to look at the screw locations on my mod. I want you to look at my mod. So that's what I tend to stick with. Next up, we've got kind of a visualization of the two standard types that we get in our cases, the 632 and the M3. Now these are both pretty similar in size, but the 632 has a much coarser thread that's a standard size, and the M3 is a metric, and it has a lot finer thread. The threads are a lot closer together. Typically 632s are used on power supplies, case panels, standoffs on your motherboard, the brackets to hold in your GPU, stuff like that. And typically the M3 is used on drives, so your optical drives, SSDs, hard drives, things like that. I normally don't see them anywhere else, though I do use them all throughout my cases, so that's really a personal preference. But if you just get a case with a box of screws in it. More often than not, those M3s are going to be for your drive bays. Not the bays themselves, but the drives that go in them. And that brings us to sizing and I guess the nomenclature of screw sizes. Now, both metric and standard use a 3-number system, and the numbers mean generally the same thing. And that's diameter is the first number, thread pitch is the second, and then the length of the screw is the last number. So our 632 quarter in standard is a number 6 size, and in standard up until about a 1/4 inch, actually I think it is up until 1/4 inch, they use a numbering system. So 4, 6, 8, and 10 are the sizes rather than give you a fractional size. The next number, the 32 on this one, is going to be your thread count. That is threads per inch. And that's how standard measures its threads. It's however many threads you can fit in 1 inch. So a 1 inch 632 screw would have 32 threads on it if you counted them. The last one being length, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's how long the screw is. On the metric side, all the metrics start with an M for metric, obviously. And then the number, the 3 in this case, is the diameter of the screw in millimeters. So an M3 is 3 millimeters in diameter, an M4 would be 4 millimeters, and M5 would be 5 millimeters. Now this second number for our pitch and our threads is actually the distance between threads. So an M3 is 0.5 millimeters. So from one thread peak to the next thread peak is 0.5 millimeters. And that size changes usually with the size of the screw. So an M3 is usually 0.5, M4s are usually 0.7, I think M6 is 1 millimeter, I believe. And then after the thread pitch, we've got our length, which is 6 millimeters. That'll always be in millimeters, obviously, because it's metric. So that's the general idea of how they designate your lengths and sizes and all that. So all your standards would be a weird random number with a large number following it, and then a length, and the metrics will be a M with a number, and then usually a point or a very small number like 0.5 or a 1, and then the length in millimeters after that. Now hopefully that clears up a little bit and prepares you to go out and purchase a screw. Say you're on Amazon. I know I do this all the time. You can go in and you can designate your your drive style, your head type, and then your sizes, and that usually will take care of everything and narrow everything down to what you need. So hopefully, like I say, this clears up anything that you might not understand about the differences in screws. It probably doesn't, but it might. You never know. But if you've got questions or comments, leave them down in the comments section. Hopefully I can answer them, or heck, if you ask me something that I don't know, awesome. I'll look it up, I'll figure it out, we'll learn something together. That's great. I'm not actively looking for new knowledge about screws, but learning new things never bothers me about it. So on that note, go out and screw something together, guys. Mod on.